Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy. Thanks for joining us today, September 22nd, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, to start us off, we take our lead from the Abbot Orsini, who tells us that today celebrates the giving of the name of Mary to Our Lady by St. Anne, her mother. I guess that's just a tradition that he is aware of. He gives a citation of Petrus a Castro in a book. But again, I think there's probably a reason to this particular date. Likewise, today is the anniversary of the publication of the encyclical on the Rosary by Pope Leo XIII, issued on September 22nd, 1891. The encyclical is entitled Octubri Mense, and the subject was the power of prayer and the efficacy of the Rosary. Likewise, down in Lampedusa, in Agrigento, in Sicily, Italy, we celebrate Madonna di Porto Salvo, right? The island of Lampedusa lies far south of Sicily. It's actually closer to Tunisia than it is to Italy, right? Since the time of the Crusades, it had been home to a rural shrine frequented by mariners, both Christian and Muslim, who had kept an oil lamp burning constantly before the crude stone statue of the Madonna and Child in the 15 and 1600s. However, the island was not inhabited until September 22nd, like today, in 1843, when two steamships of Italian colonists arrived under Governor Bernardo Maria San Vicente. So in the Madonna Valley, they found the chapel dilapidated and the mutilated statue of the Virgin on the ground. San Vicente ordered the chapel and the statue restored, and a mass sung every year on September 22nd in honor of the Madonna of Safe Harbor and the settlement of the island. During the Second World War, you might have expected bombs to destroy the church, but the Madonna was unhurt and no one was killed. In 1967, the Virgin and Child were crowned, but in 1979, the precious crowns were stolen. The faithful soon raised money for new ones, and the Madonna di Porto Salvo, like Our Lady of Safe Port, was recrowned on September 21st, 1980. She is the patroness of fishermen, and her celebration now lasts 2 weeks. On the first Sunday of September, the statue processes from its shrine to the main church in town, where it's honored with special services, until today, the 22nd, when it processes solemnly through the city streets. Right? On the 23rd, a final procession returns the Madonna to her sanctuary outside of town. Likewise, in Santiago, Chile, they celebrate Nuestra Señora de la Merced because the statue was crowned on this day in 1918. Of course, the feast of Our Lady of Merced, Our Lady of Mercy, is September 24th, as we will recall in just a few days. Likewise, in Tuscany, in Fiesole, they celebrate Santa Maria in Monte Senario. This is a celebration particularly of the servants of Mary, which celebrates the dedication of its mother church, which took place on September 21st, 1621, with an annual memorial on September 22nd, right? We also mentioned that we have some feasts we just don't know where to stick them in. So we have the third Sunday in September, they celebrate La Virgen del Val, Our Lady of the Valley, in Alcalá de Henares in Madrid, Spain. So this is a very beautiful devotion. Like, it goes all the way back to 1184, when a laborer fell into the Henares River. He was unable to swim, and he was about to drown. He prayed for help. At once, Our Lady appeared holding her child and pulled the man to safety with her free hand. Sometime later, that same man was working a field in the river valley when the plow hit an object. He dug and found an alabaster statue resembling the woman who had saved him. The plowman brought the image to his employer, who gave it the place of honor in his home, but in the morning the statue was gone. The owner checked with the worker, who knew nothing, and together they went to the field where the statue was resting in a tree. So they took that as a good sign that Our Lady wanted to stay in the valley, and so they built a little chapel for her there. In times of need, the statue would be carried to the town in procession, so that on June 8th, 1635, during a severe drought, that procession ended with a downpour as soon as the group reached the main street. The Virgin of the Vale, or the Valley, holds the titles of City Patroness, Perpetual Mayor, and Doctor of the University, having made supernatural appearances twice at St. Ildefonsus College, we're told that took place in 1791, and once at the main city church, La Magistral, in 1808. Unfortunately, the present image is just a replica because the original was destroyed by fire, right? On the Saturday night before the third Sunday of September, it processes from that rural little chapel to the main church in town. On Sunday, there's a solemn mass in the church, and on Monday, a great procession led by the city council returns the Virgin to her beloved valley. So that's what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on September 22nd. For today's reading from True Devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary by Saint Louis de Montfort, we continue with Part 1 on devotion to Our Blessed Lady in general, and Section 1, Excellence and Necessity of Devotion to Our Blessed Lady. And we're going to start with point 50, which is sort of a conclusion to what's been said earlier, how St. Louis de Montfort proclaims that devotion to Mary really needs to be increased and will grow in the end times, right? So at point 50, he's going to give us a bunch of points. There's going to be 7. We'll just read the first 6, because the 7th actually then has a whole bunch of sub-points, which we can continue to read later. Point 50. God, then, wishes to reveal and discover Mary, the masterpiece of his hands, in these later times. First, because she hids herself in this world, and put herself lower than the dust by her profound humility, having obtained of God and of his apostles and evangelists that she should not be made manifest. 2. Because, being the masterpiece of the hands of God, as well here below by grace as in heaven by glory, he wishes to be glorified and praised in her by those who are living upon the earth. Third, as she is the aurora which precedes and discovers the Sun of Justice, who is Jesus Christ, she ought to be recognized and perceived in order that Jesus Christ may be so. Fourth, being the way which Jesus Christ came to us the first time, she will also be the way by which he will come the second time, though not in the same manner. Fifth, being the sure means and the straight and immaculate way to go to Jesus Christ and to find him perfectly, it is by her that the holy souls, who are to shine forth especially in sanctity, have to find our Lord. He who shall find Mary shall find life, that is, Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. But no one can find Mary who does not seek her, and no one can seek her who does not know her, for we cannot seek or desire an unknown object. It is necessary, then, for the greater knowledge and glory of the Most Holy Trinity, that Mary should be more known than ever. And sixth, Mary must shine forth more than ever in mercy, in might, and in grace in these latter times. In mercy, to bring back and lovingly receive the poor strayed sinners who shall be converted and shall return to the Catholic Church. In might, against the enemies of God, idolaters, schismatics, and then he says Muslims and Jews, and souls hardened in impiety, who shall rise in terrible revolt against God to seduce all those who shall be contrary to them, and to make them fall by promises and threats. And finally, she must shine forth in grace, in order to animate and sustain the valiant soldiers and faithful servants of Jesus Christ, who shall do battle for his interests.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.